It was a day that would be etched in the memories of everyone who witnessed it. In a small, peaceful town, the birth of twin babies shocked the world in a way no one could have predicted. These twins were not like any other twins that had come before them. Born just minutes apart, they were as different as night and day. One was born with skin as fair as porcelain, with a head of light, almost white hair. The other, in stark contrast, had dark, rich skin and a full head of curly, jet-black hair. The nurses and doctors who attended the birth were speechless, unable to comprehend how such a thing was possible. The twins' mother, Sarah, was equally bewildered. She had already had children, but nothing prepared her for the surprise of giving birth to these two beautiful babies. Her mind raced, wondering how this could happen. Were they both hers? Were they truly twins? But the evidence was undeniable. These babies were born at the same time, sharing the same mother, yet their appearances were nothing short of extraordinary. As Sarah held her babies in her arms, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. She marveled at how perfectly unique they were. She whispered to them softly, promising that she would love them no matter what. Despite the confusion surrounding their appearance, Sarah knew deep down that they were hers, and that was all that mattered. But even as she held them close, questions lingered in her mind. How would the world react to these two different color twins? Would they face prejudice? Would people accept them for who they were, or would they be seen as a strange anomaly? The news spread quickly. The hospital staff, in disbelief, told Sarah they had never seen anything like this before. The twins' case became the talk of the town, and soon the whole world would know about these two babies. Reporters came to take photographs, and experts speculated about the genetics behind such a rare occurrence. Many were eager to provide explanations, trying to understand the scientific reasons behind the twins' strikingly different appearances. Scientists and geneticists were especially fascinated. They began to delve into the science of genetics, looking for an explanation for the twins' contrasting features. Some pointed to the possibility of a rare genetic mutation, while others suggested that perhaps the twins had different genetic backgrounds altogether. They were, after all, born to a mixed-race family, which made the differences in their appearances all the more fascinating. Sarah, however, didn't care for the scientific explanations. She was too busy being a mother to worry about the theories. She had two beautiful babies, and she loved them unconditionally. The only thing that mattered to her was their happiness and well-being. But as the twins grew, Sarah realized that the world outside wasn't as accepting as she had hoped. The twins, despite being loved by their family, were faced with questions and stares from others. People would often ask, "Are they really twins?" or make comments about how one of them didn't look like the other. Sarah tried her best to ignore the hurtful remarks, but she could see the confusion in the eyes of those around her. It was as if they couldn't understand how two children born from the same mother could look so different. But Sarah refused to let the negativity affect her. She taught her twins to embrace their differences, to be proud of who they were. She would tell them stories about how special they were, how their uniqueness made them extraordinary. She reminded them every day that they were perfect just the way they were. As the years passed, the twins grew stronger, their bond unbreakable. They became inseparable, and despite their differences, they shared a connection that was unspoken but deep. They laughed together, played together, and supported each other through the challenges they faced. Sarah was proud of the way her children had turned out, strong, confident, and full of love. But even as the twins grew older, the world around them struggled to accept their differences. There were still moments when they were treated differently, and still, there were questions and misunderstandings. But Sarah remained hopeful. She knew that, in time, the world would see the twins not for their differences, but for who they truly were, two incredible individuals with hearts full of love and a bond that could never be broken. In this beginning, the world had witnessed the arrival of two twins who defied expectations. Their journey was just beginning, and no one knew what incredible things they would achieve together. Their story, filled with challenges, love, and acceptance, was about to unfold in a way that no one could have imagined. As the years passed, the twins, Emma and Aiden, began to grow and develop in ways that both amazed and confused those around them. While they shared a bond that was undeniable, the differences between them started to become even more apparent with time. What had once been a simple curiosity for their family and community became a complex reality that the twins themselves could no longer ignore. Emma, with her light skin and blonde hair, was often admired for her delicate features. People would stop her mother, Sarah, in the street and compliment her on how beautiful Emma was. "She looks like a little angel," they would say, caressing her soft, pale skin and blonde curls. Aiden, on the other hand, with his dark skin and tightly curled hair, was often viewed with awe, but for different reasons. His deep brown eyes shone brightly, but his features and complexion set him apart. While he was just as beautiful as his twin sister, there was an unspoken sense of difference in the way people looked at him. At first, the twins didn't really understand what made them so unique. They were simply children, enjoying the same games, toys, and laughter. They had no concept of race or the way the world perceived them. But as they entered school, the differences between them became more pronounced. Children, especially in a small town where everyone had known one another for years, weren't always kind when they didn't understand something. Emma and Aiden began to hear whispers behind their backs, and they soon realized that some of their classmates were curious, even confused, about why they didn't look alike. "Why are you so different?" one of the other children asked Emma one day during recess. "Aren't you twins?" The question stung more than Emma expected. It wasn't a cruel question, but it made her feel different in a way she hadn't before. She turned to Aiden, who was playing with a ball on the other side of the playground, and suddenly everything about her appearance seemed to stand out. Her pale skin, light hair, and blue eyes were no longer just who she was. They became a symbol of difference in the eyes of others. Aiden, too, began to notice the way people looked at him. Though the world seemed to admire his appearance, he could feel the weight of their gaze. People would often stop to ask his mother, Sarah, "Are they really twins?" or make comments about how their features didn't match. It was as if his identity was tied to the color of his skin, and he didn't fully understand why that mattered. One day, when Aiden came home from school with his face downcast, Sarah knew something was wrong. He had always been a cheerful boy, full of life and energy, but today he seemed different. As he sat at the dinner table, fiddling with his food, Sarah asked him gently, "Aiden, what's on your mind?" "It's just, I don't understand, Mom. Why am I so different?" he said quietly, his voice cracking. "People keep asking why I don't look like Emma, why I'm not like everyone else." Sarah's heart broke at the words. She pulled Aiden into her arms, holding him close, trying to comfort him as best as she could. "Aiden," she began softly, "you are perfect just the way you are. The world might see you and Emma differently, but that doesn't change the love you both share or how special you are." Emma, hearing her brother's words, sat beside them and placed her hand on his shoulder. "It's okay, Aiden. We're still the same. Nothing's changed. We'll always be twins, no matter what people think." Despite their reassurances, the questions and stares continued. It was a constant reminder that the world outside of their family didn't always embrace their uniqueness. In the years that followed, Emma and Aiden faced even more challenges as they tried to make sense of the differences between them. They didn't just look different. People expected them to act differently too. Emma was often seen as the delicate, fragile one, while Aiden was expected to be the strong, tough twin. The roles people assigned to them, based on their skin color, started to shape their own perceptions of themselves. But Sarah was determined to raise her children to be strong, confident individuals who would not let others define them. She spoke to them often about the importance of embracing their uniqueness and staying true to themselves. She told them stories of people who had overcome adversity, people who had been judged for things they couldn't control, like their race or appearance. "You are not defined by the way people see you," she would tell them. You define who you are by the way you carry yourself and the love you share. Despite these teachings, Emma and Aidan could feel the pressure growing. As they grew older, they began to realize that their differences weren't just physical. They were deeply rooted in the way society viewed them. They could no longer ignore the fact that people treated them differently because of the way they looked. Some people saw Emma as beautiful and innocent, while others viewed Aidan through a lens of curiosity, admiration, or sometimes even fear. The world wasn't always kind, but as they grew older, Emma and Aidan began to understand that their differences didn't make them any less worthy of love and respect. They were not just defined by the color of their skin, they were defined by their hearts, their bond, and the love they had for each other. Together, they were stronger than any differences the world could throw their way. And although the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, they were ready to face it side by side. As Emma and Aidan entered their teenage years, the questions and stares from people began to take a toll. The constant feeling of being different from others started to affect their self-confidence. Though they shared a bond that was unbreakable, the world outside seemed to make them feel like they were living in two separate worlds. Emma felt it when people would often compliment her on her perfect skin, while Aidan would hear whispers about how unique he looked. Despite the love and support they had from their family, there was always a part of them that wondered if they would ever truly be accepted for who they were. It was one evening, on the night of Emma's high school graduation, that things would take an unexpected turn, revealing a truth they never saw coming. The family had gathered to celebrate Emma's achievements, and Aidan couldn't have been prouder of his twin sister. She had worked hard for her success, and although their paths were often challenging, she had overcome every obstacle. Yet, despite the happiness surrounding them, Aidan still couldn't shake the feeling of being overshadowed by the difference between them. That night, while everyone was busy talking and laughing, Aidan stepped outside for some air. He walked around the garden, thinking about everything he had experienced in his life. His thoughts were interrupted when his mother, Sarah, came outside to join him. She sat next to him on the garden bench, her presence comforting, yet there was something she needed to share. "Aidan," Sarah began, her voice gentle yet filled with the weight of a truth she had been carrying for years. "There's something I'd never told you. Something I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you." Aidan looked at his mother, puzzled. He had always trusted Sarah, and her words immediately piqued his curiosity. "What is it, Mom?" he asked softly, his heart racing with anticipation. Sarah hesitated for a moment before speaking. "You know how people have always asked why you and Emma look so different." Aidan nodded, feeling that familiar sting from years of questions. "Well, I've never told you the whole story. I always thought you were ready for the truth, and I think now is the time." Aidan's heart began to race. He could feel the anxiety rising within him. "What truth?" "Emma, and you," Sarah continued, her voice trembling slightly, "are not just twins born to the same mother. You two have different biological fathers." The words hit Aidan like a thunderbolt. His mind raced, unable to process the enormity of what his mother had just revealed. He stared at Sarah, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What do you mean different fathers? I don't understand." Sarah sighed, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I never wanted this to affect you both. When I became pregnant with you, Aidan, I had been in a relationship with someone else. We were young, and it wasn't meant to be. When I got together with your father, we never thought to find out about the biological connection. I was just happy to have you both in my life. But when you were born, the world saw your differences. I've carried that secret for all these years, but I think it's time for you to know." Aidan sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend the weight of the revelation. For his entire life, he had believed that he and Emma were born from the same parents, the same love. But now, everything seemed different. The foundation of his identity seemed to have shifted. "I never wanted you to feel like you weren't part of our family," Sarah said softly, her eyes welling up with tears. You and Emma share a bond stronger than anything. That's what matters." Aidan remained silent, his mind trying to process the overwhelming news. He was struggling to understand what this meant for his relationship with Emma. Would this revelation change the way they saw each other? Would it affect their unspoken bond that had always been so strong? Just as Aidan began to find words, Emma appeared in the doorway, her eyes searching for her brother. She could sense something was wrong, and the moment she saw Aidan's face, she knew. She walked over to him and sat down beside him. "Aidan, what's going on?" Emma asked, her voice full of concern. Without a word, Aidan turned to his sister, the storm of emotions inside him swirling. Finally, after a long pause, he whispered, "Emma, we have different fathers." Emma's face froze, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. It was as if the world had momentarily stopped spinning. The truth hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. But then, slowly, Emma reached over and took Aidan's hand, her grip firm, grounding him. "So what?" she said, her voice steady. "We're still twins. We're still family. This changes nothing between us." Aidan looked at Emma, and in that moment, he saw the truth in her eyes. It didn't matter who their biological fathers were. What mattered was the love they had shared their entire lives, the bond that could never be broken by blood, genes, or anything else. He smiled, a tear escaping his eye, and squeezed her hand. From that day forward, Aidan understood that family isn't defined by genetics. It's defined by the love, support, and connection that binds people together. And no matter what anyone else thought or said, he and Emma would always be siblings. Nothing could change that. The moment of truth had arrived, and it was a revelation that, instead of dividing them, only made their bond stronger than ever. As time passed, Emma and Aidan found themselves growing more confident in their unique bond. The revelation about their different fathers no longer seemed as important as it once had. They had embraced the truth, and with the love and support of their family, they began to understand that their connection went far beyond biology. In fact, it had become clearer than ever that their bond was built on love, shared experiences, and the challenges they had overcome together. Their teenage years had been a journey of self-discovery, and while there were still moments when they were reminded of their differences, whether it was in the way people looked at them or the questions they had to answer, they now understood that these differences didn't define them. What defined them was their character, their strength, and their unwavering support for each other. One afternoon, as they sat together on the porch of their family home, Aidan turned to Emma with a serious expression on his face. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened," he said, his voice thoughtful. "The world made us feel like we were so different, like our appearances were somehow a problem. But I get it now. We're not different in a bad way. We're different in a way that makes us special. I don't think I could have asked for a better sister, and I definitely couldn't imagine my life without you." Emma smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek as she reached out to squeeze his hand. "I feel the same way," she said softly. "It hasn't always been easy, and it hasn't always been fair, but I'm proud of who we are. You've taught me so much about strength and resilience, Hayden. I'm lucky to have you as my twin. It doesn't matter where we came from. What matters is that we've always been there for each other." The conversation was a turning point for both of them. In that moment, they realized that the love they shared was stronger than any challenge or obstacle they had faced. They weren't just a pair of twins who looked different from one another. They were a force to be reckoned with. They had turned what could have been seen as a weakness into a source of power, proving to the world that love and family transcend appearance and labels. Their journey wasn't just about finding acceptance from others. It was about accepting themselves. They had learned to be proud of who they were, to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to love each other fiercely. They realized that the world might try to place them in boxes, but they would never fit into any of those boxes. They had created their own path, one where their differences were celebrated, not feared. As they moved into adulthood, Emma and Aidan continued to stand by each other. supporting each other through every step of their individual journeys. Emma went on to become a successful artist, using her talent to bring awareness to issues of diversity and inclusion. Aiden, inspired by his experiences, pursued a career in social justice, working to help others who had been marginalized or misunderstood. They had found their callings in life, driven by the lessons they had learned growing up together. And as they looked back on their childhood, they saw it for what it truly was: an incredible journey of growth, strength, and unwavering love. The challenges they had faced had shaped them into the people they were today, and while it hadn't always been easy, they knew that every hardship had only made their bond stronger. One day, as they stood together at a public speaking event, sharing their story with a crowd of thousands, Emma and Aiden realized that they were no longer defined by the questions of their past. They were no longer two twins who looked different. They were two individuals, united by an unbreakable bond, standing together as symbols of love, acceptance, and the power of family. As they looked out over the audience, they saw faces filled with understanding and compassion. Their story had resonated with so many people, people who had faced their own struggles with identity, people who had felt like they didn't fit in. And in that moment, Emma and Aiden understood that they had a purpose, one that went beyond their differences and reached into the hearts of others. Their journey had come full circle. What had started as a question of why they looked so different had become a powerful reminder that it's not how we look that defines us. It's the love we give, the strength we show, and the way we stand by each other through thick and thin. They had embraced their differences, and in doing so, they had created a legacy that would inspire others to do the same. As the crowd cheered, Emma and Aiden shared a quiet smile between them. They had come so far, and they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For in the end, it wasn't about the color of their skin or their appearance. It was about the love they shared and the incredible bond that had made them who they were. They were not just twins. They were family, and that was all that mattered.